All right, hey guys, welcome to Congress Lecture 4, Omni and Congress Lecture 5, lecture notes 12 and 13, all right? So, last class we looked at what influences Congressional Committee or Congress and how they vote, right? So now we move into a little bit more specific, the Congressional Committee system, right? So the House and the Senate each have committees, right? These committees, I think there's roughly 22 in the House, roughly 18 in the Senate, right? And then those are standing committees, right? And those committees deal with legislation, all right? They write laws, they hold hearings. We're going to see a bunch of that. But Congress divides into committees because it allows them to get work done. It divides the labor. So the real work in Congress is really done in committees, okay? So before bills become law, we're going to get a little bit more technical with how a bill becomes a law, right? We've just been hinting at it. But here's the deal. A bill will be introduced, right? And then that bill would be referred, and that's a key term you need, referred to committee in the House or the Senate. It will be given a number, Senate Resolution, SR1, SR2. It goes on for that whole Congress, right? Each term of Congress, they start over with the numbering. HR, House Resolution, okay? So here's the thing is, a committee will hold all the hearings. They will do the investigations about it. They will write the legislation, and then they will send it back up the chain of command to the floor where the whole body, either the House or the Senate, will vote to pass it. All right? Okay. Now, there's a couple things. So a bill is sent to committee. And then before we get into some of these, like in Part B there, let's look at C. A committee analyzes legislation. All right? A committee analyzes legislation. All right, a committee conducts oversight of the executive branch. That's important to know. Oversight is they watch the implementation of laws. So committees will hold hearings to ask and to discuss with the executive branch how the implementation or execution of a law is going. And they'll make them justify, the executive branch justify their actions, tell the legislative branch what they're doing. Right? Because remember in this separation of powers, Congress writes the laws, but the executive branch carries it out. And so Congress will use their oversight powers to watch the executive branch carry out law and try to make them carry out the law in a way that Congress intended. All right? Okay. Now, so a bill is referred to committee. It goes into committee, and a committee will hold hearings. Those hearings bring in interest groups. Those hearings bring in, members of their constituency. Anybody impacted by the bill will be invited by the committee to testify. It could be members of the executive branch, it could be members of the interest groups. A variety of people that are impacted by the legislation will testify. And the idea is they're getting information as they write the legislation from these various constituencies or interests that exist, right? You get the experience of the bureaucracy, these executive branch people that come testify because they're the ones carrying out the law. They can give you insight into the successes and the failures that they've carried this law out. All right? Now, a couple of things. A bill is referred to a committee. A bill is reported out of the committee. All right? We're going to get into more detail on this when we go how a bill becomes a law. And then in the House, you'll vote to discharge the bill to the full body. That sends it out. All right? So, a bill is referred to a committee, it's reported out of a committee, all right? Now, selections. Here's the deal with committees. You want to get on the committee that will help you benefit your constituents, right? Okay. Your party wants to put you on committees that will help you benefit your constituents because if you're benefiting your constituents, you're going to get more votes, and if you get more votes, you're going to get reelected, and your party has another member in Congress, all right? So, here's the deal. Whatever party has the majority in that chamber, whether it's the House or the Senate, they will also have a majority on each committee so they can control the flow of legislation. They can control the agenda. All right? The committee chairman is the leader of that committee, and that person is always from the majority party. Right? The ranking member is the most senior member on that committee of the minority party. So, in the Senate right now, all ranking members will be Republican. All committee chairs will be Democratic. In the House, all ranking members will be Democratic and all chairs will be Republican. All right? Now look at these powers that the committee chairmen have. They set the agenda. If they don't hold hearings on legislation, that legislation does not go anywhere. So the agenda is incredibly important. right, what are we going to talk about? If you think about when the Democrats had the House and the Senate in '08, right, they passed the Affordable Care Act. They get that in the agenda on the right committee. They get it through the committee. They hold the hearings, all that kind of stuff. And then they send it to the floor and they get it to vote. Because again, think about it. If we have divided government, it's going to be harder. Like, think about the agendas of the House versus the Senate. The House is going to have a different agenda because it's controlled by Republicans than the Senate, which is controlled by Democrats. Yeah? All right. And think about oversight for a minute. Watch the executive branch carry out law. Whereas the Senate Democrats might be a little bit kinder and gentler with their oversight of the executive branch because they're the same party. The House Republicans are going to vigorously use that oversight power over a Democratic president, right, to really go after that person because they, one, disagree with their policies, right? And they're also worried about, elections. Okay, but I mean, that's the job of separation of power. That's also checks and balances. All right, now, hiring the staff, right? We know now from the simulation that we're getting into, you're going to see that staff members are incredibly influential on members of Congress. And so the committee's chair hires the staff for that committee. Each committee in Congress has its own staff. So not only do the members of Congress have their own staff, but the committee will have a staff to help members on that staff. All right, and again, the chair gets to hire that, and therefore they're going to be of the party of the chair. All right, it also determines who gets to be in subcommittees of a standing committee. All right, we're going to get into that in just a second. And then finally, the jurisdiction of a subcommittee. Jurisdiction means their ability to write legislation or conduct oversight on a certain issue, right? So the House Committee on Agriculture has jurisdiction on agriculture issues. The House Armed Services Committee has jurisdiction over military issues. As we learned in our research about weapons, that the House and the Senate Judiciary Committees are the ones that have jurisdiction regarding weapons legislation. Jurisdiction is the issues they care about or cover. All right? All right. Now, here's the deal with chairman. The chair is generally the most senior member of the majority party on that committee. That is the seniority system. Now, there are times when the parties may vote somebody who's not the most senior member of the majority party. Now, it'll never be the minority party. It'll always be the majority party. But the most senior member, sometimes you'll have an election in which the party leadership thinks, you know what, we need somebody more conservative or more liberal or more aggressive or more high profile to be the chair of this committee. Therefore, we choose you. Now, look at this. It says the party caucuses choose in a secret ballot the chair of each committee. So generally the rule is the most senior member of the majority party who's been on that committee gets to be the chair. But they will still have votes, and sometimes it can be different, but that's the general trend, all right? Okay. Now, and again, these can change from Congress to Congress depending on the party in power. All right, now look at its seniority system. There's experience, there's stability, there's expertise, and then the parties don't have these big fights about who gets to be the chair. The seniority system just says, well, you've earned it, you've been here the longest, you're the majority party, you get it. All right? Now, the problem is seniority means the same dudes are almost always in control of the committees, and is that reflective of the American electorate, or is it just a status quo kind of thing? All right? Now, again, the ranking member is the most senior member of the minority party on a committee. All right? Okay, really quickly. Now, check out these committees. All right? We have types. We have standing committees, we have conference committees, we have select and joint committees. 4 types, all right? So standing committees are the permanent committees in the House and in the Senate, all right? Now, generally when we think about these types of standing committees, all right, we have authorization and appropriations committees. So most committees we know are going to be authorizing in the sense that they authorize the creation of some federal law, some federal action. Committees that have appropriations powers provide the money for those things. But just think standing committees. They have legislative power and investigative power and oversight power. Investigative and oversight quite often is the same thing, right? When conducting oversight, they will realize they need an investigation into something that's gone wrong. Oversight is generally watching the executive branch carry out law. Investigative power is when they think something is wrong and therefore they're diving into it, right? And they want to check the executive branch. So those are powers over the executive branch, investigative and oversight. Legislative is just simply writing laws, right? Okay. And now again, they're defined or limited by writing their laws based upon their delegated, expressed, or enumerated powers and their implied powers when they link that to the necessary and proper clause. All right? Okay. Now, generally the House, if we look at these kind of committees, the Rules Committee, the Ways and Means, and the Appropriations Committees are the most powerful standing committees in the House. In the Senate, it's Finance, Appropriations, Foreign Relations, and the Judiciary. All right? I would remember those committees, okay? The idea of rules is the most powerful in the House because, remember, the House has way more rules, way more procedures than the Senate does. And so the Rules Committee sets when the debates will happen, how long they will happen, how much time they get, right? That kind of thing. All right? Now, Ways and Means, all tax bills, all revenue-generating bills must start in the U.S. House of Representatives. All tax bills are initially dealt with in the House Ways and Means Committee. Ways and Means deals with tax bills. That'll be on the AP exam. That'll be on my quizzes. You need to know that. All right? Appropriation deals with spending bills. All right? There's two things here, authorization and appropriation. Authorization says, right, we're going to create a law that gives laptops to all students in high school in the United States. That's the authorization. The appropriation bill will say, here's the actual money for those laptops. All right? All right. Now, in the Senate, finance deals with taxes. All right? Appropriation deals with spending like we just talked about. Foreign relations is incredibly important because the Senate has a bigger role in foreign affairs than the House does. The Senate ratifies treaties with a 2/3 vote. The Senate approves all appointments to, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, all these things that deal with armed services, okay? So, and ambassadors, all ambassadors are confirmed by the Senate. So they generally, foreign affairs, foreign relations is a bigger deal in the Senate than in the House. All right, now the Judiciary. The Judiciary Committee is really important because they confirm the nominees to the federal courts, all right, which have life terms, and that's an incredibly important power that you're giving judges, and therefore the Senate Judiciary Committee is important. And again, think about that. If you hold the hearings, if it's a Democratic Senate, Democratic Judiciary Committee, right, they will be more vigorous in challenging Republican nominations to the bench than if they were Democratic, and then all that is vice versa. All right? Okay. And now, we've even seen, now that I think about it, that the Obama administration and the Senate Democrats have said that the Senate Republicans are delaying nominations politically, right? And so they got rid of the filibuster or the cloture being 3/5, and it's now a simple majority to get through those screenings. All right? Okay. Now, so we have standing committees, we have conference committees. Conference committees are temporary committees made up of both the House and the Senate. And the deal is they have to, the conference committee's sole purpose is when a piece of legislation comes from the House and a piece of legislation comes from the Senate, they come together and the conference committees make those different versions one. All right? And you're going to see why that's important on the next day, okay? Now, look at this though. A conference committee is technically a select temporary committee, joint committee, which is made up of members of the House and the Senate jointly. All right? All right. So that's it for committees. Hey, have a good Thanksgiving. It's Tuesday right before Thanksgiving. All right. Enjoy your families. Be thankful for what you have. I hope you have a nice time. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday. Okay. Bye.